Hi guys, I'm here to scrapbook this photo, which is actually a funny size. I'm using the Best Day of My Life kit, and I'm just going to have a look at some of the papers and patterns that come in the kit. I'm going to put this paper with the bicycle on it aside because I want to use it for a bicycling layout, so I'm just kind of putting it aside so I don't accidentally use it here. And I'm just, again, picking out some papers that I think are going to go with the look that I want for this layout. The photo is 4.75 by 3.75 inches. So that, as I mentioned, is a weird size. The reason it's that size is I hit the fit function on my iPhoto printing menu, and it just fits it onto a page in a way that, onto a 4x6 page in a way that nothing is cropped, and so that's what it came out with. It's a photo that my husband took on his phone. So I just cut out a couple of cards that came on one of the pieces of paper from Echo Park from the Capture Life collection. There were two sets of cut aparts that came in this kit, and cut apart 3x3s, and see, this one has 4x6s as well. And so I'm just thinking about how I'm going to put these two together. I just freeze framed there for you so you could see that I pulled out a black paper bag. This is just a paper bag that some cosmetics came in that I purchased recently, and I love these kinds of paper bags. I always hold on to them because they make excellent layering pieces, because the paper is a little bit shinier but yet still a little bit crinkly than your standard scrapbooking paper, and it's quite thin, so it makes for an excellent layering piece. And I like to just leave anything that is interesting on the paper. So for example, that little notch for your thumb to go into when you're kind of pulling the bag apart from the other bags, I just left that so that it was included in the in the piece that I used on the layout, just because I think that that adds some interest, and I like that. If you don't like that look, then obviously you could easily cut it so that that piece wasn't included. I'm just adding, pardon me, I'm just adding a very small layer of vellum here as well. I think that it's going to just soften up a little bit of the edges of that black paper, and it just not be quite so harsh. So there is still lots of the crisp black showing, but the vellum just gives a tiny little bit of gray between my photo and the harsh black pattern. I really want to use this butterfly paper, which is from Studio Calico from the Lemon Lush, I think it's called, collection. Love that paper, and so I want to use it, but I can't figure out how, so I'm kind of sitting on that. And while I do that, I'm going to layer these pieces together. Now you can see the AY from the from that card that said today. I'm going to stick something in there to cover that up. Again, I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with this butterfly paper. I really want to use it, but I'm not exactly sure how. I'm thinking about making a vertical layer here that's going to run behind my photo, and then I change my mind. Instead, I'm going to cut two horizontal strips from the paper and put one on the top and one on the bottom. And that's a look that I, about a year ago, I was going through a phase where I was doing that on almost all of my layouts. And so I did kind of mindfully step away from that because it felt like all my layouts were looking like that. So I haven't done that in quite some time. So I think it's safe to go back to doing it every once in a while again, and I won't feel so annoyed with it looking the same. So that pink horizontal stripe, which is also the same paper, the B side is that, or I don't know which side is the B side, but the other side of it is the triangle pattern that you will also see a little bit later. That's from my mind's eye, and I love that paper. I love both sides of it. So it's from the Now and Then collection. And so I just used my double embossed dotted lace punch from EK Success, and I just punched it. That gives me that nice large scallop. And then there's the B side of that diagonal pattern paper from my mind's eye. The B side, or the other side of it, is that triangle. So I was going to run a piece of washi tape there, and then I decided to kind of think about that. I didn't want to put the paper clip there because it kind of competes with the let's go. I didn't, even though I am putting another word there that says captured. Um, I just didn't like the look of the paper clip. It wasn't going to kind of fall in the place that I wanted it to fall if I used it. I am going to put capture right here. Because it's kind of all about capturing this moment. These two weren't walking like this for too long. That's my daughter with her arm around one of her best friends that we walk to school together most mornings. And Scott just kind of ran up and it was literally captured because as soon as she knew that someone was taking her picture, she immediately didn't hug her friend anymore. So I am going to put a little tiny cluster on the top and on the bottom of this layout. And so I'm just picking out some die cuts. These are the Heidi Swap ones that I'm going through right now in the pink dish. And then the vellum that you see in the silver dish while I was talking is Crepe Paper Oh Darling vellum pieces. Then I have this Capture Life sticker sheet, which I'm looking for some potential accents for this page. And right now I'm looking for something to go underneath of that heart to cover up the word, the part of the word today. And I really don't, this is the only part of this layout that I really don't like. I don't like how this tag ended up being positioned on this layout. I am outlining it just because it was blending in a little bit too much. There are a couple of things that I'm dissatisfied with about this layout, and you know, we don't love them all. I'm just thinking here about pulling off the backing on this heart, but I decided not to, so I'm leaving the plastic coating on it because it makes it a little bit less shiny. What I was saying is that I don't like how that tag landed on the layout. I wish it was just a little bit shifted a little bit more. It's too lined up. There's too many horizontal and vertical lines there. I'm just showing you that that gap is causing another awkward thing here. So, I mean, obviously this tag caused a couple of different problems. I'm going to cover up this problem by adding this little tab right there. So there was just this little gap where two papers were close together and it looked kind of awkward. So this tag does a pretty good job, this little tab thing with the pluses on it. That's just one of the stickers from the Crepe Paper, no, October, no. Think about it. It is the Echo Park sticker sheet. So it does a pretty good job of covering that up, but still that yellowy greeny label with the plus signs on it is just a little bit too lined up and not quite askew or not quite layered enough. I use my glossy accents to attach the capture, and now I'm going to place this doily so that it's sort of providing a bit of a background for the captured die cut. Even though the captured die cut isn't sitting entirely on it, it's just going to add a little bit of interest and dimension behind the capture. And then I am kind of finally gluing down some of my layers here that I just had in mind but not in place yet. So then I took another one of those vellum pieces, and I really like the look of layered scallops that have different sizes and colors, so I'm really enjoying that. I thought about adding a little something here, and that would have looked okay in retrospect. I kind of like that, but I ended up not doing that. It would have been okay. Not that, but I would have liked one of those two butterflies there. Thinking about what I'm going to put on that little tab, the blue tab, because it definitely needs something. And I don't want to just do a roller date stamp on it. I want to do something kind of, this layout is looking very flat to me, and I've got some, I know I'm going to have some interesting pieces above and below, and so I don't want those to be stronger elements than what I'm going to put on the layout itself. So I'm trying to think of some strong elements that I can put here. I was going to put some chevrons that point to where the title will eventually be. And now I'm still kind of thinking about arrows pointing to the title that isn't there yet. And now I'm thinking, maybe I can use one of these bows. What I really love about these bows, I was suspecting they were like this, but I wasn't entirely sure until now. is that you can take the bows off of the paper clips, and they actually come off really easily, although it's not, I don't think they would fall off by accident, but if you try to take it off, it's not going to rip or tear. The glue sticks to the bow and comes right off of the paper clip. It's not a paper clip, it's a clothespin. Sorry if I was calling it a paper clip. Anyhow, I really love these bows. They're awesome. I talk about them in the video where I share this kit, which hasn't been posted yet, but maybe by the time you're watching this, it might be posted. I'm a bit behind in my videos for a bunch of reasons. So I really like how these three bows look together on this layout. I like that it's kind of like a unusual shaped triangle. So I'm just using, again, my glossy accents, and you might have seen when I turned over the bow that the glue from sticking it to the clothespin was still there and intact. It didn't rip the back of the bow at all. And these bows are really nice quality. They provide a nice amount of dimension. They're not they're not nearly as dimensional once you take the paper clip, not paper clips, the clothespins off of them. So they actually make a really, really nice accent. And I know some people are hesitant to use things with a huge amount of dimension on their layouts. So this is a nice way to use these if you're not wanting clothespins on your layouts. For some reason, I'm stuck on calling them paper clips. So that glue hasn't entirely dried. I am not the most patient person in the world with wet glue, which is why I tend to try to use dry glue whenever I can. Anyhow, these are the letter stickers that came in the kit. They were on one of the sticker sheets from Crate Paper that came in the kit. Not Crate Paper, from Echo Park, from the Capture Life collection. And one thing that another thing that I'm a little bit disappointed with for this layout is that I really wanted to use that card that has the white bokeh, but by the time I do all my layering on it, it really just looks like a piece of white paper. Sorry about my head there. So you really lose the effect. The effect is way too subtle to use it in this kind of a situation, but I didn't really know when I was picking it what I was going to do with it. So... And now that bow has moved around so much that the glue has dried and it's not attached to the layout, but that's okay, I'll fix that in a second. I'm going to scooch these letters so that the white parts are overlapping. I don't want to make it look like I don't want the pink, the actual letter parts to overlap, so I'm just overlapping the borders. So these letters have a white border around them. You can't see that very well because I'm putting them on a white paper, but I am just kind of trying to scooch them close together without making them look too crowded by overlapping that border part. I think I said that a million times already. All right, so so I put that washi tape down there because there was a gap. It looked like the word bus stop was floating a little bit. It looked a little strange to me. So I put the washi tape down there. Now I'm thinking the washi tape looks a little floaty, but I'm not going to add anything else. I felt like it needed something to kind of like anchor the title, but I'm going to take that green piece of vellum out of there because it's just distracting, and I kind of like the pattern that the washi tape provides there, and it does give the title something to sit on, so it's not just kind of floating in the middle of the of that white piece of paper. And I'm just going to spell out the word buds with these glitter letter stickers from Heidi Swap. These look an awful lot like some glitter letter stickers that Making Memories used to make a couple of years back. And actually they look almost like identical. And so I'm thinking about what I'm going to layer this on. I end up not layering it on anything, but I do play around with the idea of putting a little something behind the word buds to emphasize the word buds. This was the closest thing I could come to a solution, and it just wasn't going to work. So I decided to just put it plain. And now that I'm narrating this, I'm realizing that I have another layout, another fairly recent layout that has a very similar title. I think it was called Backpack Buds. So clearly I like the word buds. But that's okay. I don't really mind. I am layering the word buds so that it is overlapping with that O and a little bit with the P. It doesn't impact the readability. That I also made the bow go over part of the B. Again, it doesn't impact the readability in this case, so I don't mind layering in that way. I'm always kind of mindful that I don't want to get in the way of the title. Oh, my video camera is doing all kinds of crazy things here. So I just glued those strips down on the top and the bottom, and I glued them in kind of like an off-kilter kind of way so that they provide, just to give a little bit of interest there. And I love that paper. It's so pretty, the butterfly paper from Studio Calico. So sorry, some of this action seems to be taking place off screen. I'm just layering a couple of little pieces. I had already torn a piece of the triangle paper, which again is the back side of that diagonal striped pink and white paper. And I just took a couple of vellum hearts just because they're light and airy and they're going to be up at the top, so I don't want them to be too heavy. I took this piece of scrap paper from a previous kit and I went to my typewriter and typed this as well as the kids' names in a separate place on that same piece of paper. And then I just cut it out and I put the kids' names on the top and the little tiny bit of journaling about them. It says, at the top it says Hannah and Liv, and then at the bottom it says walk to the bus stop together most mornings. So I'm just adhering that down, and I'm going to use my tiny attacher to put that little green vellum chevron on, and going to use a piece of adhesive for the camera because I don't want a staple to distract from the design of the camera. So that's the bottom. Now I'm going to work on the top. I'm going to use my tiny attacher again, and then I will glue down the other heart. I forget how. I think I use a tiny bit of ATG. Yep. There we go. And so, yes, I just put a little dimensional adhesive pop dot thingy behind that just so that it pops up off the page a little bit, gives me a little bit of shadow and dimension. I play around with the placement of these stars. I kind of struggle with placement of little things on this layout a little bit more than usual. I don't want to cover up that pretty butterfly, which is why I didn't put a star up at the top there. I'm going to put a star down there beside the camera and then one up at the top. I'm not going to go with threes because I feel like it's just going to overwhelm. I put a little enamel dot there, but I thought it took away from the look of the camera. It kind of muted it out a little bit too much, and I like the black dot in the middle. It's actually a gray dot. I'm going to put a couple of enamel dots, and you'll see me struggle again with placement. I don't know, these dots just weren't doing it for me. I don't know, I keep thinking, does it need more dots? Does it need less dots? Do they need to be closer together? Do they need to be in a three? I'm just kind of like, can the star be one of my three? I'm just kind of playing around. And by this point, the dots are not all that sticky anymore. That's what I went with. So then I finally put the layout down on the background paper, like adhere it down. And now I'm going to come back and add some little splashes of ink, just masking off the main stuff so that I don't get any stray splatters anywhere. This is Heidi Swapp White, and I haven't used very much of it, but it does tend to, when you use it on a colored cardstock, it does tend to just kind of like tint the page. It's not an opaque white, it's a very, very translucent white. transparent white. So I've kind of combined it with Mr. Huey's opaque white, which gives a nice bright white. And then I also added some gray, or it's actually silver Mr. Huey's. So I think this combination of mist splatters actually looks really great. It's a nice neutral combination of three colors. So I've got the opaque white, the Heidi Swapp white, which becomes kind of like a tone on tone. It blends in with the craft a little bit, and then the silver. I really like that look. So now you can see just a little bit of close-up of this layout. I didn't do any outlining at all on it, just for a little bit of a change. I guess I did, I just outlined the tag. But I just like it for a bit of a change every once in a while to just not do the outlining. And I found that there was enough contrast between the papers here that I didn't really have to worry about outlining. I really like how the enamel dots kind of hide amongst the splatter. They provide a bit of a pop of color, but they're not too different from the splatter. So here are some of the photos. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you all have a really great scrappy week.